I knew he was behind me before I saw him. It was the way the echo of footsteps matched mine half a second too late. Not perfectly in sync, just off enough to make my skin prickle. I told myself not to look. If I didn't turn around, maybe I wouldn't confirm it. Maybe it would stay in that gray area, where I could still pretend I was being dramatic. But when I finally glanced over my shoulder, he was there. And he didn't even try to look like he wasn't following me. This happened in 2019 when I was living alone in a small apartment just outside downtown. I was 27, working my first real job after college, and trying hard to convince myself I was independent and fearless. I walked everywhere, to work, to the grocery store, to the coffee shop 2 blocks away where I graded freelance editing projects on weekends. It was a safe area, or at least that's what everyone said. The first time I noticed him was on a Tuesday evening. I'd stayed late at work and decided to walk home instead of calling a rideshare. It was still light out, busy enough. He was across the street at first, standing near a bus stop bench. Late 30s maybe? Baseball cap, gray hoodie despite the humidity. I remember noticing him because he was staring directly at me, not glancing, not absent-mindedly scanning the street. Staring. I looked away quickly, embarrassed, like maybe I'd misread it. When I crossed at the next light, I didn't see him again. I told myself I'd imagined the intensity, but 2 days later, I saw him again, this time closer. I was leaving the coffee shop around 7 Page M, and he was leaning against a lamppost on the same block. Same hoodie, same hat. He didn't smile, didn't nod. Just watched me walk past. I felt that uncomfortable buzz in my chest, like when someone invades your personal space in an elevator. Still, I rationalized it. It's a city. People exist in public spaces. Maybe he lived nearby. Maybe I just had one of those forgettable faces that made him think I was someone he knew. A week passed without seeing him, and I relaxed. Until Saturday night. I had dinner with a friend and walked home alone around 10:30. That's when I heard the footsteps. Not right away. At first, it was just the normal sound of shoes hitting pavement. Mine. Distant traffic. A dog barking somewhere. Then the second set. I slowed slightly. They slowed. I sped up. They sped up. That's when I turned and saw him again. Same hoodie. Same cap pulled low. About half a block behind me. He didn't look surprised that I'd noticed him. If anything, he looked calm, patient. I told myself not to panic. There were still people out. A couple walking ahead of me. Cars passing. He could just be heading in the same direction. But when I turned onto my street, a quieter, residential strip, he turned too. My mouth went dry. I pulled my phone out and pretended to answer a call. "Yeah, I'm almost home," I said loudly, even though no one was there. "Can you come downstairs?" He didn't react, just kept walking. I didn't go to my building. I walked past it, kept going to the next corner, heart hammering. I ducked into a 24-hour convenience store instead. The bell above the door jingled, and I rushed inside like I just needed snacks. I hovered near the refrigerators and tried to act normal. Through the glass front windows, I saw him stop outside. He didn't come in. He just stood there, looking at the door. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. Eventually, he walked away. I stayed another 15 before leaving, hands shaking so badly I dropped my card, paying for a bottle of water I didn't even want. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, I convinced myself I'd overreacted. He hadn't done anything technically wrong. He hadn't spoken to me, hadn't touched me. Maybe he just walked the same route. But things escalated. 3 nights later, someone knocked on my apartment door at 11:47 Page M. I wasn't expecting anyone. I froze on my couch. The knock came again, slow, firm, not frantic, not mistaken, deliberate. I crept toward the door and looked through the peephole. My stomach dropped. It was him. No hoodie this time, just a dark t-shirt. But it was him, standing inches from my door. I didn't breathe, didn't move. I prayed he couldn't hear my heart pounding. He leaned slightly toward the door, like he was listening. Then he knocked again. "Hello?" he called softly. I didn't answer. After what felt like an hour, but was probably less than a minute, he stepped back. I heard his footsteps retreat down the hallway. I waited 5 full minutes before moving again. Then I ran to my bedroom window, which overlooked the parking lot, and I saw him walking out of my building, like he lived there, like he belonged there. I barely slept that night either. The next day I reported it to the leasing office. They told me maybe he was visiting someone, that it was probably a misunderstanding. I wanted to believe them, but deep down, something had shifted. This wasn't a coincidence anymore. This was intentional. 2 evenings later, I left work early and decided to take a different route home. I kept checking reflections in store windows. My nerves were shot. Halfway down a side street, I saw him, across the road, walking parallel to me. He didn't look at me this time, which somehow felt worse. I crossed the street suddenly. He crossed too. That's when the fear turned physical. My hands tingled. My hearing narrowed. The world felt distant, like I was underwater. I darted into a small boutique that was about to close. The employee looked annoyed until she saw my face. "Can I help you?" she asked. "There's a man following me," I whispered. She glanced outside casually. "He's just standing there," she said. I peeked. He was across the street again, watching. I don't remember leaving the store. I remember texting my friend frantically. I remember calling my brother. I remember my voice shaking so hard I could barely form words. The next clear memory is running. I decided not to go home again. I headed toward a busier avenue instead. The footsteps came back. Closer this time. I turned a corner quickly and nearly collided with someone else. Apologized. Didn't stop moving. My lungs burned. I could hear him now. No attempt to hide it. Just steady pursuit. I reached a crosswalk and hit the button repeatedly like it would change faster if I begged it to. He was maybe 20 feet behind me, and then he spoke. "You don't have to run." His voice was calm, almost amused. That snapped something inside me. The light turned and I sprinted across the street against the signal. A car honked. I didn't care. He followed. That's when I saw a patrol car parked outside a small restaurant. I ran straight toward it. I must have looked insane, waving, crying, breathless. The officer stepped out just as the man slowed behind me. I pointed. "That's him. He's been following me." The officer turned to the man. "Sir, can I talk to you for a moment?" And for the first time, I saw his expression change. Annoyance. Like I'd inconvenienced him. "I'm just walking," he said casually. The officer questioned him for a few minutes while I tried to steady myself. Eventually, the officer came back to me. He says he lives a few blocks away. There's no crime in walking. I knew that. I hated that I knew that. But as the officer spoke to him again, I saw something that made my blood run cold. The man was smiling. Not friendly, not nervous, just pleased. The officer finally told him to head home and advised him to, quote, "give her space." He walked away without looking at me. But as he passed the patrol car, he said something quietly. I don't think the officer heard it. "I did. I know where you live." The words were soft, almost conversational. That was the moment I stopped doubting myself. The next morning, I requested to break my lease. I stayed with a friend for a week while everything was processed. Before I moved out, I went back once during the day with my brother to collect the last of my things. That's when we found it, tucked under my doormat. A small folded piece of paper. Inside was a handwritten note. Why involve the police? I just wanted to talk. No name, no signature, but the handwriting was tight and deliberate. My brother wanted to go back to the police. I considered it, but there was no proof it was him, except I knew. I moved to a different part of the city after that, changed my routines, stopped walking alone at night. I never saw him again, but sometimes, years later, I still feel that half-second delay in footsteps behind me, and my body reacts before my brain can catch up. People like to say not to assume the worst, not to jump to conclusions, and I understand that. But there's a difference between anxiety and instinct. Anxiety is loud, chaotic, unfocused. Instinct is quiet, clear. It doesn't argue. It just knows. Every time I ignored that feeling, things escalated. The staring, the following, the knock at my door, the note under my mat. If I hadn't run toward that patrol car, I don't know what would have happened. Maybe nothing. Or maybe something I wouldn't have walked away from. I don't tell this story to scare people. I tell it because I almost convinced myself I was imagining it. I wasn't. And if your gut ever tells you someone's behavior isn't normal, even if it's subtle, even if it feels embarrassing to react, listen to it. You don't owe anyone the benefit of the doubt at the expense of your safety. I learned that the hard way. And I'll never ignore that feeling again. The first story happened when I was 16, and I still think about it whenever I go home to visit my parents. I grew up in a quiet lakeside town where nothing really happened, the kind of place where everyone shops at the same grocery store and waves at each other in traffic. Behind our neighborhood, there's a paved walking trail that loops around the water. It's about 3 miles long, with wooden benches every few hundred feet and dim yellow lampposts that flick on at sunset. During the summer, the trail is always busy. Families pushing strollers, older couples power walking, teenagers cutting through to get to each other's houses. It feels safe because you can always see someone ahead of you or behind you. This happened in early October, a few weeks after school started back up. The weather had just turned cold enough that your breath showed in the air at night. My best friend Jenna lived 2 streets over, and we had this routine where we'd meet at the entrance to the trail around 7:30 p.m. and walk a lap to complain about homework and people at school. Jenna is loud in a funny way. She narrates everything like she's in a reality show. I'm quieter, more cautious. That's probably why I noticed him first. We were about halfway around the lake when I realized I'd heard the same footsteps behind us for a while. Not close, just consistent. I glanced back casually. There was a man maybe 50 yards behind us, hoodie up, hands in pockets, walking at a steady pace. "Do you know him?" I asked. Jenna looked back too quickly and then laughed. "Why are you scared?" "No, I just feel like he's been back there for a while." "He's just walking?" she said. "It's a walking trail." She wasn't wrong. And he wasn't doing anything obviously weird. He wasn't speeding up, wasn't calling out, wasn't even looking at us, at least not when I checked. Still, every time we slowed down, he slowed down. When we picked up our pace, his stride lengthened slightly. About 10 minutes later, Jenna was mid-story when she suddenly went quiet. "Okay," she said under her breath. "He's still there." The trail had emptied out more than we realized. The sun had fully set. The lampposts cast long shadows that stretched across the pavement and into the trees. We stepped off to the side near one of the benches and pretended to check Jenna's phone. He passed us. For a second, I felt stupid for overthinking it, but he didn't look at us when he walked by. Not even a glance, just straight ahead. Hood up, face angled slightly down. And then, about 30 feet ahead, he stopped. He didn't sit. Didn't tie his shoe. He just stood there. Jenna grabbed my arm. "Is he waiting?" The path ahead split. One fork looping back toward the main entrance, the other leading into a darker stretch that cut closer to the woods before reconnecting later. He took the darker path. We waited maybe 20 seconds before following, telling ourselves we were being paranoid. When we reached the fork, I don't know what made me do it, but I looked down at the gravel. Fresh footprints veered into the darker trail. We took the lit path instead, and about 2 minutes later, we saw him again. Standing at the bend where the 2 trails merged back together, just standing there, facing us. I couldn't see his face clearly, just the shape of him under the lamplight. He hadn't passed us, which meant he'd cut through the unlit wooded shortcut to get ahead of us. Jenna didn't say anything this time. She just whispered, "Run." We didn't sprint at first. We power walked. Then we heard footsteps behind us again, faster. That's when we actually ran. The parking lot lights came into view, and I've never been so relieved to see my mom's minivan in my life. We jumped in, locked the doors, and didn't look back until we were pulling out. He was standing at the edge of the trail entrance, watching the car leave. He didn't chase us. He didn't wave. He just stood there. I still walk that trail when I visit home, but never after sunset, and never without checking behind me. The second story happened during my freshman year of college. I went to a small university in the Midwest. The campus was compact. Red brick buildings, wide open quads, and a main street that ran straight through town lined with coffee shops and late-night diners. Most students walked everywhere, especially at night. My roommate, Sam, worked closing shifts at a bookstore about a mile from campus. I'd usually meet her around 10:30 page, M, and walk her back because the town got quiet after the bars closed. One Thursday night, it was colder than usual. The sidewalks were almost empty. Streetlights buzzed faintly overhead, and the only sound was traffic from the highway a few blocks away. We were halfway back when Sam casually said, "Don't look right now, but I think that guy's been behind us since the bookstore." I felt my stomach drop. Which guy? Gray jacket, hands in pockets, dark jeans. I waited until we crossed the street before glancing into a storefront window to check the reflection. There he was, about 40 feet back, matching our pace. "Maybe he's just heading toward campus," I said, trying to sound calm. "Maybe," Sam replied. But she grabbed my arm tighter. We tested it. We slowed down. He slowed down. We sped up slightly. He adjusted. There were still a few businesses open, but the stretches between them felt long and exposed. The wind had picked up, and the sound of it moving through the bare trees made everything feel emptier. "Let's cross again," Sam said. We crossed mid-block. So did he. That's when I stopped trying to rationalize it. We ducked into a 24-hour diner without speaking. The bell above the door jingled loudly. We slid into a booth near the window and pretended to look at menus. He walked past, didn't come in, just slowed slightly and looked through the glass. I'll never forget that feeling. Not knowing if he could see us clearly, not knowing if he was deciding something. After about 30 seconds, he kept walking. We waited 5 full minutes before stepping back outside. The street looked empty again. We made it another block before Sam quietly said, "He's across the street." I didn't even need to check. I felt it. This time, he wasn't directly behind us. He was diagonal, keeping distance, following without being obvious. Campus gates finally came into view. A security vehicle was parked near the entrance. As soon as we stepped into the well-lit archway, the man stopped on the opposite sidewalk. He didn't try to enter campus. He just stood there, then slowly turned around and walked the other way. Campus security filed a report, but nothing ever came of it. No one else reported him. No one knew who he was. What bothers me most is how patient he was. He wasn't rushing. He was pacing us like he had all the time in the world. The third story is the one that still makes my hands shake when I think about it. Last winter, I started going to the gym before work. It opens at 5 a.m., and I liked getting in early because it was almost empty. The parking lot is large but poorly lit in the far corners. Most people parked near the entrance, but I always parked a little farther out because it was easier to pull through and leave quickly. It was still dark when I finished one morning, that deep blue-black sky right before sunrise. There were maybe 3 other cars in the lot. As I stepped outside, I noticed a man leaning against a truck 2 rows over. He wasn't on his phone, wasn't getting in or out, just leaning there, watching the entrance. I told myself he was waiting for someone. I walked toward my car, keys between my fingers like everyone tells you to do. I unlocked it quickly and got in, and that's when I saw him move. He pushed off the truck. I started walking, not toward the gym, toward me. I locked the doors immediately. He didn't change pace, didn't wave, didn't speak, just walked straight toward my driver's side window. He stopped about 3 feet from the car, close enough that I could see his outline clearly. Hood up, hands at his sides. He tilted his head slightly, like he was trying to see inside. I froze. He didn't knock, didn't test the handle, just stood there. Then he slowly stepped around the front of my car. I started the engine. My headlights came on, illuminating him fully for the first time. He shielded his eyes briefly, and that's when I saw something in his hand. Not clearly, not enough to identify it, but something metallic. I threw the car into reverse and peeled out of that parking spot faster than I ever have in my life. In my rearview mirror, I saw him standing exactly where my car had been, watching me drive away. I reported it to the gym staff later that morning. They checked the cameras. The truck he'd been leaning on didn't belong to any member, and it wasn't in the lot when they reviewed the footage 30 minutes later. I still go to that gym, but I park right by the entrance now, and I always look around before I unlock my door, because the scariest part about being followed isn't the running. It's quiet. It's patience. It's realizing someone has been watching you long before you notice them. The first time I realized someone was following me, I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination. I was 22, working nights as a bartender at a neighborhood dive bar a few blocks from my apartment. It wasn't a glamorous job, but it paid my rent, and I liked the regulars. For the most part, it felt safe, familiar. Looking back, I think what scares me the most is how normal everything felt, right up until it wasn't. The bar sat on the corner of a busy intersection during the day, but at night, it quieted down fast. We had a mix of older regulars, a few off-shift nurses from the nearby hospital, and construction guys who came in for cheap beer and whatever game was on. I usually worked the late shift on Fridays and Saturdays. Since I lived so close, I'd just walk home after midnight. It was a straight shot down 2 blocks and across a small side street. 7 minutes, maybe less. I had done that walk so many times, I stopped thinking about it. There was one regular, though, who always made me uneasy. His name was Aaron. I only knew that because of his credit card. He looked mid-30s, maybe pushing 40. Thinning hair, pale skin, and he always wore this gray zip-up hoodie, even in the middle of summer. He never came in with anyone. He'd sit at the bar alone and try to talk to me the entire time, barely glancing at the TV screens. At first, it was just normal small talk. Busy tonight? You from around here? But over time, the questions shifted. Do you live close? You walk home alone? What days do you usually work? I always kept my answers vague. It's part of the job to be friendly, but I never encouraged him. One Friday, he came in around 10 page, M, and barely touched his drink for almost an hour. I caught him watching me constantly, not in a loud or obvious way, just these quick glances whenever I moved behind the bar. Near closing, he leaned forward and said, "Have you ever hung out with customers outside of here?" I told him no. I kept my tone light and professional. I try to keep work and personal life separate. His expression changed instantly. He forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes and said, "Yeah, makes sense." Then he threw some cash down and left without tipping. He had always tipped before. My shift ended at midnight. I grabbed my hoodie, counted my cash, and headed out. The street was empty like usual. I had just turned onto the second block when I heard someone say my name. I froze. Aaron was standing near a street lamp behind me. I hadn't heard him approach. He walked toward me slowly and said, "Hey, I just wanted to apologize if I made things weird." I told him it was fine, but that I needed to get home. He asked if he could get my number. I said no. That's when I noticed something shift. He wasn't smiling anymore. "Okay," he said softly. "I'll just walk this way too." I started walking again. After a few seconds, I heard footsteps behind me. I sped up. The footsteps sped up. I slowed slightly. They slowed too. When I reached my building, I crossed the street instead of going to the door. He stopped across from me under a tree. "Why are you following me?" I asked. "I'm not," he said calmly. "I'm just walking." I hurried back to my building and punched in the code. As soon as the door buzzed open, I heard him running. I ran inside and slammed the door. I heard it crash open again before it latched. He had made it inside. His footsteps pounded up the stairs behind me. I was shaking so badly, I could barely get my key in the lock. I got inside just as he reached the hallway. A second later, his full body slammed into my door. The frame shook. He hit it again. Harder, I screamed. My neighbor across the hall opened his door and yelled, "What the hell is going on?" The banging stopped immediately. I heard Aaron run down the stairs. Police came within minutes. The building's camera showed him forcing the door open behind me. He was charged with stalking and unlawful entry. I filed for a restraining order the next morning. Nothing like that ever happened again. But even now, years later, I still don't walk anywhere at night without checking behind me. The second time I was followed, I was 19 and home from college for the summer. I worked at a grocery store stocking shelves overnight. My shift ended at 4 a.m. and the parking lot was always almost empty. My parents lived about 10 minutes away, so I drove home every night. The routine never changed. Clock out, grab a coffee from the break room, walk to my car. There was a guy who started showing up in the store around 3:30 a.m. He never bought much, sometimes just a soda, sometimes nothing. He'd wander the aisles and end up in whatever section I was working in. He looked early 30s, scruffy beard, baseball cap pulled low. He always seemed nervous, like he couldn't stand still. At first, I assumed he was just another insomniac. Then, he started asking what time I got off. One morning, I walked to my car and noticed headlights turned 2 rows over. I didn't think much of it until I pulled out and saw the same car pull out right behind me. I took a few turns toward home. The car stayed with me. My chest tightened. I made a random left turn I never normally took. So did he. I sped up. He sped up. That's when I knew. Instead of going home, I drove straight to the police station in town. I didn't call them. I just drove there. As soon as I turned into the parking lot, the car behind me hesitated, then sped off. I sat in my car shaking for a good 5 minutes before going inside to report it. They reviewed nearby traffic cameras and identified the vehicle. It belonged to the same man who'd been coming into the store. He had a prior record for harassment. Police spoke to him and warned him. After that, he never came back into the store. I transferred to day shifts anyway. To this day, if a car makes more than 2 turns behind me, I assume the worst. The third time happened just last year. I was 28, living alone again in a new city for work. I liked going on evening runs around my neighborhood. It was a quiet residential area with sidewalks and streetlights. I usually ran the same 2-mile loop after dinner. About a month after I moved in, I started noticing the same white SUV parked along different parts of my route. I didn't think much of it at first. Lots of people own white SUVs. But then I realized I never saw anyone get in or out of it. One night, as I ran past it, the engine turned on. I kept running. A few seconds later, the SUV rolled forward slowly, keeping pace on the street beside the sidewalk. My heart started racing. The window rolled down. A man I didn't recognize leaned slightly toward the window and said, "Hey, I see you running here a lot." I didn't respond. "You live around here?" he asked. I said, "Please leave me alone." He laughed lightly, just being friendly. The SUV continued creeping beside me for almost half a block before speeding ahead and turning the corner. I cut my run short and went home. The next evening, I decided to test something. I ran a completely different route. Halfway through, I saw the same white SUV pull out from a side street ahead of me. He had been waiting. I immediately turned and ran toward a busy intersection with a gas station on the corner. The SUV made a sharp U-turn. I sprinted. By the time I reached the gas station parking lot, he had pulled in behind me. I ran inside and yelled to the cashier, "Call the police!" That man followed me. The SUV reversed quickly and sped out of the lot. Security cameras caught his license plate. Police tracked him down within a week. He lived less than a mile from me and admitted he just thought I was attractive and wanted to get my attention. He was charged with harassment and stalking. I stopped running at night after that. All three of these moments happened years apart, in different cities, at different stages of my life, different men, different circumstances. But the feeling was the same every time, that slow realization that someone isn't just nearby. They're choosing to be near you, and once you've felt that shift from coincidence to intention, you never really unfeel it. Even now, I check reflections in windows when I walk. I take different routes home. I park under lights. I keep my phone in my hand, because the scariest part isn't being followed. It's realizing someone has decided you're worth following at all.